Hello, good morning. It is 10:48. I would like to take this time to share with you some things. I spent the evening last night, a portion of the evening, speaking with my baby mama about the notions of God. And I realized that it's been a while since I did a podcast, but also I've mentioned certain concepts of God many times in my rants, and so I felt it necessary to dedicate a podcast, at least one, this time, to try and explain the notions as well as I can. So, the thing about God, there's plenty of different examples of what people think the image is of this energy or whatever. I would consider, and I would suggest considering that all these things, all these ideas came from a non-image originally, came from a concept of some force originally, and then down the line it just kind of got personified, and more and more people wanted to add symbols in until the image of God became, either a multi-armed animal head being, some winged hybrid human creature, some sort of bearded man floating in the sky is the most common one for the Western world. Whatever it is, whether you view God as a flying spaghetti monster or the planet Earth, that's up to you, but the baseline concept is that you're trying to attribute this kind of concept of a power and divinity and purity, and hopefully love, hopefully the pure concepts of morality and truth, to some image, so that you can use that image that you're connecting with as something that you can put into your mind that connects you to all those things, to love, to purity, to power and divinity, is going to benefit you. You're going to use that as a tool to help you in prayer, to help you when you're meditating, to address it throughout your day, and then connect with that power, connect with that love, or that divinity. That's what I view is the benefit, is the goal here. The thing about the concepts originally was that if you break down nearly all the more ancient cultures and their view of God, is that the principles or the features, if you will, of God really quite often line up with certain laws of the universe, or laws of nature, laws of how things are created, laws of creation, if you will, in the universe. So some ancients viewed God as a hermaphrodite, as having no definable sex. Serapis comes to mind, the god with the seven-letter name, Serapis, and even the Baphomet and Abraxas similarly are kind of depicted in similar ways of not really having specific sex. And the idea there is that God, for creation to occur throughout, whether it's biological or even non-biological, there has to be feminine forces and male forces that come together. So for some people, they may say, how do you get a male and a female force in a non-biological sense? And so that's when it gets more symbolic. The idea is that the feminine quality is a container that is receiving force or energy or things or whatever. It's contained and it's receiving. It's a pulling in force. Whereas a male force is a directive force outward. So the idea of a galaxy being contained in its zone, but it's also pushing out its arms and spinning and casting out its planets in a direction. This flowing motion is both male and female qualities. And so you can also say that an atom is male and female qualities. Probably I would say the nucleus, which is strangely enough the positively charged, is the male forces. The female forces. The center is gravitationally pulling things in, is receiving force, whereas the electrons are moving and they have the direction outwards, but they're being pulled by the female force in containment. And so all these things you can find throughout nature, and if you're willing to really actually do your research on this, you could look up natural law, you could look up sacred geometry, the laws of the universe, spirit science, and the book that kindled spirit science videos are the Secrets of the Flower of Life books. Very good, very informative stuff. But there's much more to it than just a male and female. There's stuff about sacred geometry. Much like the Secrets of the Flower of Life, the Flower of Life, and this information is all in the spirit science videos. The Flower of Life and the Seed of Life, which is the first kind of design, and then it's expanded into the Flower of Life and so on, is kind of can be attributed to the exact same process of Genesis in the Bible. It's called the Genesis pattern because it's the seed of life, in that you can conceptualize all creation coming forth through this pattern. And it's very intense. Maybe I'll try and link a video to the spirit science dealies videos to explain what I'm talking about. But the idea is that that God is creating the universe. This concept of a God is creating the universe as such. But the idea is that we discovered how nature worked first, and then we conceived the idea of a creator being the one that made those laws and made that process. We were able to rationalize and logically break down all the laws of the universe, sacred geometry, which is fundamental throughout. The alchemy of science, basically alchemy is science. Basically is science of the ancients. They understood these things. Many people might not understand, might not say, oh, alchemy is bullshit, you're turning lead into gold, blah, blah, blah. It's very complex stuff, and I urge you to look into it before you judge it as such, because clearly you don't know shit, if that's what your claim is. But these ancients knew a lot. They were wise as fuck. Sacred geometry, laws of the universe, like natural law, the Hermetic laws. There's 7 of them, and some people go as far as to say there's 8 of them. I'm not sure I could list them all off by heart. Actually, maybe I'll look that up. But the interesting thing is that when you get into these cultures with multiple gods, like Greece, Rome, Egypt, my understanding is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, okay. So I've got them here. My understanding is that these cultures with multiple gods, all of them are describing a fundamental principle of nature, or of existence, as it were. So you've got these concepts, which are like, polarity. The very fundamental idea of polarity, the idea that you have light and dark. The presence of light and the absence of light. It's not that those are 2 separate things. Those are similar things. In fact, one may suggest that they're the same exact thing on a spectrum. There's simply a polarity of more light or less light. But the subject is light itself. And that the absence of light is in connection with the presence of light. So the idea being that these gods, like, Hermes, Zeus, Apollo, Venus, being connected to fundamental principles of the universe, of creation, of existence. And so the initiates of the mystery schools and the occult masters, these people who knew the true wisdom, knew these laws, and knew how they worked throughout the universe. Theoretically, in ancient times, like tens of thousands of years ago, everybody knew all this stuff. But then it slowly became like more and more dumb people, more and more laymen, theoretically. Anyways, like in ancient Greece, there were these temples, and all the laymen, all the people who didn't know the principles of the universe, would go to these temples and pay homage and give sacrifice and pay their dues and give an offering and all these things, and be like, please bless me, please bless my family and my home and my farms and my crops and blah 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 blah. And then the people who really knew what it meant, what that deity meant to them, was the law, the understanding of this undeniable, well, I guess you could deny it, this principle of the universe. They would go there and merely address that fundamental principle and see it in their life, see the effect, honor that, and basically bring that about their understanding. Go there to honor the law and try and come to terms with how that affects their life, and do it in a meditative process and all these things, and basically be able to gain from it the wisdom that they can kind of manipulate it, but use that knowledge to help their life. And so basically the concept of God, in one way, was trying to describe existence, as it were. So before God, the concept of God, we tried to figure out what existence was and how it worked. We'd figure out, all these laws and all these things, and then we personified God. And another interesting thing is that math, there's a lot of math in like scripture and stuff about God. So I might have mentioned phi or Fibonacci in later videos. So phi is the golden ratio. If you don't know, it's a golden ratio. It's spelled PHI, much like pi, but only PHI. Phi is mapping out the golden spiral. So it's spiraling outwards and inwards. So, but also when you take that ratio, it's just a ratio, like, I have it here. I have the golden ratio in my drawer. Where is it? Here's the golden ratio. So the idea is that we discovered all creation was designed with this ratio. Why this is not taught in school is beyond me, other than the potential theory that they're trying to hold us back, dumb us down, and steal the knowledge of truth from us. So we've got this ratio in our programmed. Every digit is phi to the next digit. And so it's measured out. Anyways, so phi is called the golden ratio because the math is one of the most perfect math. It's really weird. It's hard for me to explain. But the idea is to find phi, you only need two measurements or something like that, and all other equations you need 3 or something. I don't know how. The spirit science videos address it better, but phi is viewed as the perfect ratio. So it's the most visually appealing to the eyes, but also the spiral, when it's plotted on a spiral graph, you can zoom into the center of the spiral infinitely, and it's always going to be the exact same curvature going inwards. And you can zoom out from this spiral infinitely, and it's always going to be the exact same perfect curvature. So much like pi is a perfect circle, phi is a perfect curvature with growth and with depth. So human beings, though we are not, our physical form is not infinite, and neither is the rest of biology in this universe or physical manifestation in this universe. It's all based on Fibonacci, which is not perfect phi, but Fibonacci grows closer and closer to perfect phi as it grows. And so Fibonacci starts off with 0, 1, and then it adds the last number to the next one. So 1, 1, 2, because 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 and 1 is 3, and 3 and 2 is 5, and 5 and 3 is 8, and 8 and 5 is 13. It goes on with that pattern. And then as you divide the one number with the last one, a decimal point gets closer and closer to 1.718, which is the 1.61803398887, and then on and on and on, like pi. Anyways, so this ratio, if you don't understand yet how fundamentally important this math is to creation, I urge you to look deeper into this math. And the idea is that this math is perfect. Fibonacci is not perfect because there's a beginning and then theoretically there's an end when we die. So that can be attributed to the concept of we were born into imperfection. That's the only logical one for me. Aside from the idea that we were born into physical form, and then inherently we have lesser qualities in us. And that's the idea that we have lust. We're not completely beyond lesser qualities. We have the capacity within our being to lie, to steal, to cheat, to do heinous things. And although we do have programmed into our being a conscience that is basically urging us to not do things that are immoral, we have morals programmed into our being. I would argue that every natural human being is good deep down in their programming. It's just that we have done certain things, we've lied to ourselves, and we believe in lies about ourselves to such a degree that it poisons our actions. And so that can be the concept of us being born into sin. Also the idea that there's philosophies that when we're born and we're touched by the zodiac signs and they leave an imprint in our psyche when we're manifested, the concept of the Hermetica is that we have our solar system and our planet in the solar system, but when we're manifested into physical form, our life force is coming from the all that is all creation. And so, quite literally, we are one with all existence. We are one with the universe when we're not alive. And our spirit, our soul, is coming in from everything into our body to be encapsulated. Our life force is everything. It's coming in to the body to be encapsulated into manifestation in physical form. And so the idea is, when we're coming in, the signs of the zodiac are the last energy forces that touch us before we are encapsulated. They're kind of like almost programming us as we are encapsulated. That's the concept from the Hermetica. And I think that that's a very sweet concept. Very interesting. Don't really want to get too far into the discussion about astrology and the zodiac signs right now, because I'm already on a pretty big topic. But the idea is that each sign from the zodiac has a potential flaw, like a character flaw. So mine is Aries, and the character flaw is that we're hard-headed, we're brash, we go in head first, we say things without thinking, we do things without thinking. We often get head injuries because we jump into things head first. Kind of overbearing, and can hurt other people's feelings without even noticing or thinking about it. So that's a character flaw. For others, there's other character flaws. Like Cancer is kind of like needy. I don't know that much about all the other ones, but because I don't study them as much as the effect that I have. Like I said, I don't want to get into it, but I've noticed similarities with mine and myself. So I'll leave it at that. But the idea that we're the beast, you know, the mark of the beast, that we're born with animalistic qualities. So it's described in the Hermetica that we can surpass these flaws. You're not inherently flawed without the gift of being able to surpass them. The idea is that the more you know, the more wisdom you gain and attain in your life, the more in likeness to God you can become through knowledge, through wisdom. By attaining wisdom in your life, you can become closer to knowing that of which is God. You can surpass your flaws. So this brings me to the concept of God that the Gnostics believe in, which is that, and this is my depiction of it, the Gnostics, Gnosis means wisdom. Gnosticism kind of means wisdom or knowledge through experience. So the Gnostics, in my opinion, this is how I would decipher it, is that they viewed God as truth. God created this universe, theoretically. So if there was a creator, a creative force or something that made this existence come to be, then by understanding this existence, by understanding the laws and the habit patterns of this reality, you could then know and understand God better. So by understanding natural law, by understanding the fundamental patterns, the geometry, by understanding phi, Fibonacci, in all existence, all these things that, strangely enough, are not discussed in the modern Western education. All of these things that are painted over natural law. Has anybody in the Western world even heard of that concept? The 7 laws, the 7 hermetic principles. No. I'm actually going to use this opportunity right now to read them off to you. So, first one on this list is mentalism. The principle of mentalism is that the entire universe is a mental plane. The idea that every interaction that we have with the universe is a mental interaction. It's not a physical existence, it's a mental existence. And if you're so scientific that you are willing to completely deny this, which is understandable, you can't deny that every single interaction that you physically have with the outside world is conceived and translated mentally. Every single action you have and interaction with the universe, you're perceiving mentally first. So, anyways, the next one is correspondence. The principle of correspondence is as above, so below. Within the mental plane, as will be physical. Also, the idea that things can relate to another. This corresponds to this. The principle of vibration is another one. The idea that everything is vibrating. And we're proving this now, obviously, through physics and quantum physics. The idea that nothing is stagnant, nothing at all is ever not moving. Everything's got to be vibrating at least a little bit in order to exist. And once it stops vibrating, it disappears. Even scent is vibrating. Even like music, obviously, is vibrating. You know, even the chair you're sitting on or the computer you're watching this on is vibrating, and a complex different array of vibrations to create the thing that you're interacting with. The next one is polarity, and it's, as I described before, the differences between one polar opposite and the other, but they're inherently connected in a dual nature. Another similar one is gender. That all things throughout the universe have masculine, feminine principles. And so it's not that they're biologically, it's not that all inanimate objects have biological sex. It's the energy of the movement and the way that they behave. So again, the idea that something can be receiving or have direction, moving out. So something like a photon that's moving straight is a more male behavior. But then also the idea that it's a little wave spinning. It's not just moving straight, it's corkscrewing. It's something is pulling it in on itself. And that simple pull, that simple curvature is created by a female quality, a female energy. So the next one is rhythm. The idea that things sway back and forth from one polarity to another, and there's always going to be a rhythm in nature or in seasons or in the day or whatever. There's always some sort of rhythm. So in your own life, a rhythm of more clarity to go into more illusion. a rhythm of potentially more sobriety to less sobriety, a rhythm of progress to more relaxation, a rhythm, if you can see these, start to understand these behaviors in your life, you might be able to gain a lot of wisdom and potentially help you to move forward if you desire to move forward. And so the last one on this site that I've found is the principle of cause and effect. And so that is that every one of your actions, everything you choose to do, no matter how seemingly small, is going to have an effect on the universe. So the idea that this entire universe is made up of vibrations, and then you do a little thing, it's like the butterfly effect. It's like you do a thing over here without thinking, and then it's going to affect all these things and come back to you. Essentially, people link this to karma. The idea of karma, that you push somebody, you push a homeless person over, seemingly they're drunk, something that seems so little, but it's a negative thing, and then karma comes around next week and bites you in the ass. And most people who are so in their own illusions and not aware of these laws, they are completely unaware that they themselves cast out that energy in the universe that is biting them in the ass. I know so many people that are like, oh, fuck that. They're just resonating on such an angry level of their mental being is so angry all the time, just yelling all the time, or saying, fuck this, fuck you, not really taking the time to understand things, just really reactive kind of anger, and then wonder why things happen to them that are negative. And so you live in this negative being, and you're rippling out negative hurt, pain, anger towards the universe. That's going to ripple back. Cause and effect is a fundamental principle. And also, so that's 7 laws, the Hermetic laws. The 8th one is the most elusive in that it's it's kind of hard to understand. The idea is that it's the law of intention, or the law. Some people might say that it's similar to the law of attraction given by the Secret, the book. Many New Agers are believe in this, the law of attraction. The thing about the law of attraction is that there's also a law of repulsion. If you view it that way, there's a law of attraction, but there's also the polar opposite, the law of repulsion. So you could be trying to attract something while simultaneously repelling it with some other subconscious action. So the law, more accurately, it's like the law of intention. It's what you adhere your consciousness to, and your intention to it is going to help accumulate that. The law of attention. If you put your attention on something, that's going to accumulate to you. It's kind of like, I viewed it as almost like the law of love. If you're having love in that attention, in your intentions, that it's going to accumulate that. And it's not the law of love, but I just inherently thought about that, because to me, that's the fundamental purity is, if you're going to have an intention, it might as well be love. That's the best thing. That's the best result that you could ever want. So if you want to manifest something, if you want to create something or bring something about, why not use that one? So then back to the other example is that if you're causing all this anger, if you're about that, you're accumulating that in your life. So that 8th one is not really viewed as a law to most people, but it's kind of one of those secret ones. Anyways, to me, God is basically just the concept of purity. You know, my baby mama asked me last night, it's like, what do you adhere God to? Because we were discussing these things, the idea that people just create these images to depict God, and it's obviously not accurate. It's not like there's a personified, like maybe there is, but you know, like what evidence do you have that there's a human being type figure on this higher plane that's like, no, you know, like how about this, how about that, a Zeus or a multi-armed being or whatever? Like how what evidence? Nothing. There's no evidence of that, other than the idea that we are potentially the epitome of evolution. That's a far-fetched theory, and that as a result we're evolving towards this perfect form. Anyways, I told her, because the God of Gnosticism, which is this very advanced theology, their God is a picture of a rooster-headed being with snakes for legs. How crazy is that? But the thing is, they openly admit, they're like, no, this is not the real picture of God. It's a metaphor for the law of polarity. The rooster is the male form, the snakes are the female form. God is both the God of light and dark, of male and female, of good and evil. God is God of everything. There's no, like, preference. God created this universe, and it's all-encompassing. God is the all-encompassing. God is there in the suffering as well as there in the love. But we know that love is better than suffering. We know through experience that morality is better than deception. Morality is programmed into our being. Morality, we feel, everybody knows that they would rather be with a moral person than a deceptive person. Somebody who cheats you and lies to you. We all know that we would rather be with a calm, loving being than an angry person who's full of toxic emotions. We all know these things. It's programmed within our beings. So the interesting thing is that the theory of God is that all these features are in us. All these features that we attribute to God are in us. And every single one of them is the better feature. So the idea is that we manifested this creative image. We used our creation, our imagination, to create God. That means that concept of God is coming from us, our imagination. But the thing is that it's a good thing, because we've dipped into this creation every single one of our good qualities. So by using this image in the proper way, we can then connect to our own higher qualities. If you're doing it properly, if you're saying, yes, I'm connecting, give me blessings, God, thank you, I'm connecting with you and you're blessing me, my qualities are enlightened and elevated, my qualities of love, my qualities of creation, my qualities of strength and power and wisdom are all heightened because of this prayer I'm saying to this image that is potentially just a figment of my imagination. So the idea is that these, and even the Egyptians, they were analyzing the subconscious and analyzing even the biology. Many of the headdresses that these gods are wearing are actually symbolic of simple biological organs in our being. They dissected the human body, and they were connecting all. There's a lot of secret wisdom in the ancient Egyptians that I think is just completely dumbed down and people don't understand. But the idea of this purity, this pure force. So my baby mama asked me last night, was like, what is it to you? What is God to you? And I simply told her that. I was like, we have like light. Light is a higher vibration than darkness. The frequency of light is super fast. So a sun photon coming from the sun is super fast. Up until recently, we didn't think that anything could move faster than the speed of light. But it has to be a high frequency. It has to be an incredibly high frequency to move that fast. And we know that by measuring the human brain and the human emotion, that love and compassion is the highest frequency that we're able to resonate at. The idea that truth is a high frequency. So all these things connecting and accumulating to me is that there's this polarity in the universe of lesser and greater. There's love, there's truth, there's light, and there's malice, suffering, deception, pain. Lesser qualities, lower frequencies. So in my mind, we have the dense and we have the elevated, the higher frequency spectrum. So to me, it's just like God is just, you recognize that there's a better side to things. And to me, I want to recognize that that's something that God gave us, that was created, exists, whatever. That's what I want to address. That's what I want to adhere to. So to me, I don't know what kind of picture I'm not summoning a picture of God. I'm not summoning an image that I've personified to be God. I'm addressing the truth in the universe. I'm addressing the light and love in the universe when I'm doing a prayer or whatever. When I'm not one to pray much, but I meditate a lot. I simply just want to address that and come into contact with that. So, yeah. Hit me up with some questions. I'm going to call this to an end, this podcast. This is going to be about it for me today. So, yeah, hit me up with some questions. As usual, love is law, love under will. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Peace.